My name is Sarah Thompson. My life has been turbulent from the moment I was born. Being born without sight in my left eye would greatly influence my destiny. My childhood memories are fragmented and hazy. I can't even clearly remember my parents' faces. All I remember is the constant discomfort I felt and the cold looks from my parents. Sarah, get out of the way. You're in the way, can't you see? I heard such words almost every day. My parents probably couldn't accept from the beginning that my left eye couldn't see. To them, I might have been a defective product. By the time I started school, I was acutely aware that I was different from other children. It was difficult to make friends, and I was always alone. The teachers were kind to me, but I felt it was out of pity. I remember the day before my 10th birthday, my parents were unusually kind to me. Sarah, tomorrow is your birthday. We'll take you to a special place. I felt a small hope at my mother's words. Maybe this would deepen our family bond. That's what I thought. The next day, we drove for a long time. I desperately observed the changing scenery outside the window with just my right eye. The lush green cityscape gradually changed to a desolate desert landscape. We're here, Sarah, my father said. When we got out, the scorching sun enveloped us. Looking around, all I could see was sand and rocks stretching to the horizon. Wait here. We'll be right back, they said. With those words, my parents got into the car. I heard the engine start, and the car drove away. I continued to wait there as my parents had told me. 1 hour, 2 hours. Even as the sun began to set, my parents didn't return. How long did it take me to accept the reality? I had been abandoned by my parents. In the middle of the Arizona desert on my 10th birthday. I cried until my tears dried up. Then, I started walking to survive. Not knowing where I was heading, I just kept walking desperately. My throat was parched, my feet were buried in the sand, and my whole body ached from sunburn. Night fell, and the cold seeped into my bones. The starry sky was beautiful, but I had no leisure to enjoy its beauty. I laid my exhausted body on the cold sand. Someone, help me. I mumbled in a hoarse voice as I lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes, I was on a soft bed. An unfamiliar pattern on the ceiling. The smell of disinfectant tickling my nose. I quickly realized this was a hospital. "Oh, you're awake," said a kind voice. I turned to see a woman in a white coat standing there. "I'm Mary Wilson. I'm the wife of the pastor who found you." Mary gently held my hand. Tears involuntarily fell at her warmth. "It's okay, you're safe now." At Mary's words, I finally let out a sigh of relief. But the next moment, fear struck me. The police. My parents. My voice was trembling. Mary let out a deep sigh. "We've contacted the police. We reported it as soon as we found you. As for your parents, they haven't been found yet." At that moment, the door to the hospital room opened, and 2 police officers entered. "Hello, Sarah. How are you feeling?" A kind-looking female officer spoke to me. I nodded slightly. We have some questions about your parents. Could you tell us what you remember, as much as you're comfortable with? The male officer said. With a trembling voice, I told the officers everything I could remember. Being taken to the desert, my parents leaving, being left alone. After I finished talking, the female officer gently placed her hand on my shoulder. You did well, Sarah. You're brave. Don't worry, we'll find your parents. After the officers left, Mary hugged me. It's okay, Sarah. We'll protect you from now on. A few days later, I was discharged from the hospital. My parents still hadn't been found. The police were continuing their investigation, but there seemed to be few leads. The Wilsons, in cooperation with Child Protective Services, decided to take me in temporarily. Sarah, this is your home from now on, Pastor John said. His voice was full of love. At first, I was confused by the unfamiliar environment. But the Wilsons' love was real. They never made an issue of my left eye not being able to see. Sarah, your eye is special. It's a gift from God, Mary would often say to encourage me. At school, with the Wilsons' support, I gradually made friends. The teachers were also careful to accommodate my disability while providing thorough instruction. Sarah, you have wonderful talent, my English teacher praised me. I was truly happy when I heard that. I loved reading and immersed myself in the world of literature. When I entered high school, I became passionate about student council activities. Using my own experiences, I launched support programs for students with disabilities. Sarah, your actions are inspiring many people, Pastor John proudly watched over my activities. As the time for college approached, the Wilsons fully supported my dreams. Sarah, your future is bright. Whatever path you choose, we'll support you, Mary's words filled me with deep gratitude. Looking back, 8 years had passed since that incident in the desert. My anger and sadness towards my parents had gradually faded. Instead, my feelings of gratitude towards the Wilsons had grown. Dad, Mom, thank you. I started calling them that. They were more than real parents to me. I decided to major in political science in college. I wanted to have the power to change society. That's what I thought. Sarah, I'm sure you'll be able to help many people, Pastor John's words made me nod strongly. I was filled with a mix of excitement and anxiety about the new life that was about to begin. But with the Wilsons as my strong allies, I felt I could overcome any difficulty. My life had only just begun. I'm excited just imagining what adventures await me. On my college graduation day, the Wilsons embraced me with proud expressions. With a degree in political science in hand, I was ready to take the first step towards a new challenge. Sarah, your determination is firm, Mary smiled gently at me. I nodded. Yes. There are so many things I need to change. Pastor John placed his hand on my shoulder and encouraged me, God will guide you. And will always be on your side. Right after graduation, I decided to run for the Phoenix City Council. The election campaign was tougher than I had imagined. There were voices pointing out my youth and lack of experience, but I overcame them with my inherent tenacity. "Sarah Thompson will bring a new wind to this city," one of my supporters said. When I heard that, my heart swelled. I could feel that my message was gradually reaching people's hearts. In the midst of the election battle, an incident occurred. The local disability support center was in danger of closing due to budget shortages. "If this continues, many people will lose the support they need," the center's staff pleaded. I took immediate action. I started a signature campaign and submitted a petition to the city council requesting a budget review. Day after day, I stood on the streets, seeking understanding from citizens. Even if each individual voice is small, if we all work together, we can make a big change. My passion gradually spread to those around me, and many volunteers joined the campaign. As a result, more signatures were collected than expected, and the city council promised to reconsider the budget. This event had a big impact on my election campaign. Many citizens highly appreciated my initiative and determination. On election day, I waited for the results with my heart racing. And when the votes were counted, it was decided that I would become the youngest city council member. "Sarah, congratulations." The Wilsons rushed over. Tears were shining in their eyes. "Thank you, Dad, Mom. This is all thanks to you too." My days as a city council member were busier than I had imagined. Meetings, committees, dialogues with citizens. Every day was a series of new challenges. But I cherished each one of them. I particularly focused on advocating for the rights of people with disabilities. Using my own experiences, I proposed various policies such as promoting barrier-free environments, expanding employment support, and improving educational environments. Councillor Thompson's proposals are really improving the lives of many citizens, a man in a wheelchair thanked me one day. At those words, I truly felt that becoming a politician was the right choice. However, not everything went smoothly. There was criticism from the opposition, and sometimes even personal attacks. At such times, the Wilsons always supported me. "Sarah, you're doing the right thing. Never give up." Mary's words encouraged me countless times. By the time I was serving my second term as a city council member, my name was widely known throughout the state. And one day, I received an unexpected proposal. "Councillor Thompson, we'd like you to run for governor," a party executive approached me. I was surprised, but at the same time, I felt a great possibility. If I became governor, I might be able to change the lives of even more people in a positive direction. After deep consideration, I decided to run. An even bigger challenge was waiting for me. From the moment I decided to run for governor, my life changed dramatically. My experience as a city council member was valuable, but policy-making with the entire state in mind was a completely new challenge. The election battle was fierce. My opponent was a veteran politician with abundant financial resources and a strong support base. They relentlessly attacked my youth and lack of experience. "It's too reckless to entrust state government to candidate Thompson." Such criticisms filled the media day after day. But I never gave up. It's true that I may lack experience. But that's precisely why I can approach state politics with a fresh perspective. In debates and street speeches, I continued to confidently advocate my beliefs. I presented concrete policies on a wide range of topics, from disability rights advocacy to education reform, environmental protection, and economic revitalization. "Sarah, your passion is moving people's hearts," Mary's words encouraged me. The Wilsons were still my strongest supporters. As the election campaign was entering its final stage, an unexpected situation occurred. The secret of my birth was leaked to some media outlets. Candidate Thompson was abandoned by her birth parents at the age of 10. Sensational headlines circulated throughout the state. I was shaken, but I decided to use this opportunity to honestly talk about my past. It's true that I was abandoned by my parents. But I was blessed with wonderful foster parents and have come this far supported by many people. This experience is the driving force behind my politics. Contrary to expectations, this confession resonated with many voters. My life story of overcoming hardships touched people's hearts. On voting day, I waited for the results with a prayerful feeling. And as the vote count progressed, a surprising fact became clear. I had won. Sarah Thompson decided as the next governor of Arizona. Seeing my face displayed on the TV screen, I couldn't help but shed tears. My long-held dream had finally come true. "Sarah, congratulations." Pastor John embraced me. Mary, with tears in her eyes, said, "We're so proud of you." Amidst the excitement of victory, preparations for the inauguration began. The content of the ceremony, the guest list, security measures. There were mountains of things to consider. And finally, the day of the inauguration arrived. A large crowd of citizens had gathered in the square in front of the Arizona State Capitol. I took deep breaths, trying to suppress my nervousness. "Are you ready, Governor?" an aide called out to me. I nodded and headed towards the podium. "Citizens of Arizona." My voice rang out clearly through the microphone. I read out the prepared speech, savoring each word. "I hereby swear to do my utmost for all the people of this state." Just as the speech was reaching its climax, suddenly, a commotion broke out in the audience. I paused my speech for a moment. And then, two figures emerged from the crowd. At that moment, my body froze. Although they had aged, there was no mistaking those faces. They were my birth parents. "Sarah. It's us." My mother's voice faintly reached me. It was the first time I had heard it in 28 years. My father stood silently, but his eyes were fixed on me. The venue was in an uproar. Security personnel were trying to approach my parents. My mind went blank. I couldn't think of how to respond. At that moment, my eyes met with the Wilsons, who were sitting in the front row of the audience. They nodded quietly at me. That gesture brought me back to my senses. Taking a deep breath, I turned back to the microphone. "I apologize for the interruption. Let me continue my speech." My voice might have been shaking a little, but it never broke. My life has not been an easy one. However, all of those experiences have shaped who I am today. From now on, no matter what difficulties may arise, I intend to face them head-on, never running away. The venue was dead silent. I glanced in the direction of my parents. They were looking at me with complex expressions. Finishing my speech, I bowed deeply. A big round of applause erupted, enveloping my ears. It was the beginning of a new chapter. And at the same time, it was a confrontation with a past I had sealed away for years. What kind of developments await from here on? With a mixture of anxiety and expectation, I quietly closed my eyes. After the commotion of the inauguration had settled down, I let out a deep sigh in my office. Outside the window stretched the vast Arizona desert. 28 years ago, I was abandoned in that desert, and now I stand at the top of this state. I can't help but feel the irony of life. A knock sounded, and my secretary peeked in. "Governor, sorry for the wait. I've brought them." Tension runs through me. The door opens, and two elderly figures appear. My birth parents. Sarah. My mother's voice is trembling. I stood up and took a deep breath. "Please, have a seat." The two nervously sat down in the chairs. For a while, a heavy silence flowed. "Thank you for coming," I said, trying my best to maintain composure. My father opened his mouth. "Sarah, we're truly sorry." At those words, 28 years' worth of emotions welled up all at once. Anger, sadness, and a strange sense of relief. Why did you do such a thing?" My voice was slightly shaking. My mother began to speak through tears. "At that time, we were young and foolish. We didn't have the confidence to raise a child who couldn't see with her left eye. But that's no excuse." My father continued, "We regretted it every day. But we were too ashamed to have the courage to contact you." And before we knew it, so many years had passed. I listened to their story in silence. Complex emotions were swirling inside me. "We're proud of your success," my mother said. At those words, I couldn't help but give a bitter smile. "Even though I wasn't your daughter for 28 years. The two hung their heads. Then, my father said in a small voice, "Actually, we need your help." I furrowed my brow. "What do you mean?" My father hesitantly began to speak. "For the past few years, we've had a series of business failures. We've accumulated a large debt." "Debt?" I couldn't hide my surprise. My mother continued, "We've lost our house and car. We're currently staying at a friend's place." I was at a loss for words. The two people before me no longer appeared as the cold-hearted parents who had abandoned me, but as a pitiful elderly couple who had been defeated by life. "How much debt?" I asked, regaining my composure. My father answered, "About $500,000. I gasped at that amount. It's certainly not a small sum. "Why, me?" I quietly asked. My mother answered through tears, "When we heard you became governor, we thought it was our last hope." I fell into deep thought. How should I handle this situation? It's not just a matter of money. 28 years of emotions, responsibility, ethics, various factors are intertwined. "Give me some time," I finally spoke. "I can't answer right away." The two nodded slightly. "Thank you for listening to us," my father said. After the two left the room, I stood by the window, gazing into the distance. The desert landscape evokes memories from 28 years ago. This unexpected reunion and my parents' dire straits. How should I respond, not as a governor, but as a human being? The answer hasn't yet been found. Several days have passed since the shocking reunion with my parents. I was looking out at the Phoenix skyline from my office window. From the desert where I was abandoned to the heart of this big city. I can't help but feel the irony of life. "Sarah, are you all right?" I turned around to see Mary standing there with a worried look. The Wilsons had rushed over as soon as they heard about this commotion. "Yes, somehow." I returned a smile, but complex emotions were swirling inside me. Pastor John quietly said, "Sarah, whatever you decide, we're on your side." Those words made my heart swell. For 28 years, these two had been my real parents. Love, education, and life guidance. They were my benefactors who had given me everything. "Dad, Mom, thank you." I hugged them tightly. Their warmth gave a little peace to my confused heart. However, I couldn't get my birth parents out of my mind. A $500,000 debt. And a reunion after 28 years. Their words kept echoing in my head. "We thought it was our last hope." I let out a deep sigh. As a governor, I can't use public funds for a private family matter. But I can't just ignore it either. Moreover, can I forgive them? Deep down, anger and sadness are still swirling. "But you weren't perfect parents from the start either, were you?" Mary's words startled me. Indeed, even the Wilsons must have gone through a series of trial and error. Still, they never abandoned me and continued to love me. People can change, Sarah. Maybe your parents too. Mary's kind eyes touched my heart. A few days later, I called my birth parents to my office again. They appeared with anxious expressions. "I have an answer regarding your request," I said. I took a deep breath and continued speaking. "As a governor, I cannot use public funds for personal issues. I think you understand that." My parents nodded with grave expressions. However, I carefully chose my words as I spoke. "As an individual, I've thought of a way to help you." Their eyes widened. "There are conditions. First, I won't take on your entire debt. You need to make efforts to repay it yourselves. I will support that effort." My father opened his mouth. "What do you?" "There's a state employment support program. You can participate even at your age. Find a job there and gradually repay the debt. I will take on part of the debt on the condition that you participate in the program and receive counseling." My parents seemed at a loss for words. And one more thing, I looked at them with a serious expression. This is the beginning of a new relationship. We can't change the past. But what we do from now on is up to our choice. Tears welled up in my mother's eyes. Sarah, thank you. We won't betray your trust, my father swore firmly. I nodded quietly. I don't know if this is the right decision yet. But people can change. I decided to believe that. As I watched my parents leave the room, I whispered in my heart. Dad, Mom. It was a word of gratitude to the Wilsons. They were the ones who gave me the courage to make this decision. Outside the window, the strong Arizona sunlight was illuminating the desert, as if heralding the beginning of a new chapter.